Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to Around the Sound, Circling Seattle Sports' daily pro sports recap show. It is now Tuesday, October 28th. This will be the episode for Monday, October 27th. Not a ton going on in terms of game-related action. There was one game, it was a playoff match for the Sounders, which is important, but everything else outside of that's largely off-day stuff for the other teams, or things that just largely relate to the teams and are not directly affecting the current roster of the team. So we'll start with the Sounders, of course, the only team that played a game today. They began their MLS Cup playoffs matchup round one, best of three. This is best of three in these MLS Cup playoffs against Minnesota United, a club they have not done well against this year, as I mentioned on Seattle Pro Sports Mornings on the morning of the 27th. And unfortunately, this came to about on oops, says my microphone changed. Don't want that. What we worried about on the last episode of our Sounders show, Sound Waves from the Sea, we were worried that the Minnesota United was going to play this defensive game, force things to penalties and then go from there. Unfortunately, that's what happened. The Sounders, in terms of just you look at the basic statistics of this, the Sounders dominate possession, they dominate expected goals, they will lead in shots on target, big chances, passing, all this in corners, all these sorts of things. And they're not able to finish. Unfortunately, you go into the halftime break tied. Uh, you know, Everything to play for, obviously scoreless at the half. Kind of felt like maybe Minnesota would get something fluky. But they, in terms of goal, Paul Rothrock wasn't able to give you too much in this one, unfortunately. Um, you're kind of just kind of wondering what he would give you on the left side. Um, Sounders press looked pretty good in this one. Uh, you know, but the movement in the final third was good for Seattle. They just weren't able to finish, obviously. Um, but Minnesota had the more dangerous chances in that first half, unfortunately. So, a little bit scary. Seattle was able to maintain their shape and press throughout the second half, which was nice. But, we go into the penalty kicks and anything can happen. We saw this last year with the Sounders and Sounders in the run that they went on. And, you know, now you're coming home down a game and you need to win at home next Monday, the 3rd of November, with a 7:30 kickoff time at Lumen Field. So it was tough. We worried about Zeph Fry going into the penalty kicks. Obviously, there were other issues. You can't just blame it purely on Fry. But the penalties are a bit frustrating here. Albert slots home the first one. Oh, there we go. Um, Minnesota makes their first three. The Sounders miss their second. Alex Roldan isn't able to convert. Jackson Reagan steps up and makes one. Uh, you know, Ultimately the Sounders miss three. Alex Roldan not able to convert. Christian Roldan not able to convert, and Denny Leva not able to convert to finish it off. So you can't put all the blame on Steph. Um, but yeah, it's tough. Denny Musovsky created chances, wasn't able to convert, which obviously was the only thing that matters. Um, Seattle wasn't as dangerous in the second half, which is unfortunate. And, give some credit to Dane St. Clair in goal for Minnesota United. He did his job, you know. Um, but not great. Jordan Morris looked pretty good out on the wing when he did, in comparison to being up top. So interested to see if that's something that we see in game two or if they go to a game three. But yeah, press looked good. This is a frustrating one. Um, and everything goes to game two. If you lose, you're bounced in the first round. You get swept in two games. This three-game series, that game. Next Monday, November 3rd, 7:30 p.m. kickoff time at Lumen Field. So move over to the Seahawks, who, they're back to work. Big piece of, I say big, but For some folks it's big. Fullback Robbie Utes is back and available to practice. So that's pretty. I know folks were pretty excited about him and what he was going to be able to contribute. Um, from the fullback position. Uh, and so he's back to practicing, which is nice to see. There's the group of defenders that we talked about in Seattle Pro Sports Mornings that are coming back. Um, but yeah, now the fifth round fullback out of Alabama, played those first three games, had a big role on special teams, suffered an injury in the big win over New Orleans, and had to go on injured reserve. So he's back, and now it'll be interesting to see how much that's going to, benefit the run game because, Jake and I on our Seahawks show, Circling the Nest, talked about the running game and how much it has, not been a factor, unfortunately, for the Seahawks, despite how well the team has played. So, um, Mike McDonald had a quote on the Seahawks coming out of the bye. The team's head coach said, "We put ourselves in a position to really attack this second half of the season, and we know we can improve." So, yeah, I mean, they're in great position. There's no denying that. We'll continue over to our Kraken, who had a practice session ahead of what is now today's game against the Montreal Canadiens, Tuesday, the 28th. What's kind of funny was over at the Iceplex for that. Normally, the goaltenders and a few other skaters will go over to rink two, which is the Smart Sheet rink. It's the rink that the hallway at KCI overlooks, and the tables overlook. They weren't able to do that because it was tot play hour around the time where the Kraken were holding practice. So they had to come over to rink three, the Virginia Mason Franciscan Health Rink, which is largely, other things like public skate and the other different activities that they host at the Iceplex, and get started over there, which was kind of funny. Um, yeah. So it was cool to see Capo Caco. He was back on the ice. He was the first skater to join the three goalies, and Philip Grubauer, Matt Murray, and Joey Decord out on rank three, helping them get some shots in, and work on some other things. It's good to see. Paco was at the morning skate on Saturday, ahead of the game against um totally blanking. Oh, the Oilers, which is early for him. He was projected to be out until about the 9th of November. And, if everything goes according, I don't think he'll play tonight against Montreal. I'd be pretty surprised, but I could certainly see him playing Saturday when the team hosts the New York Rangers. I think that's a pretty reasonable expectation. Play the Rangers, it's a big game for a few reasons. They play the Rangers. Will Borgen's coming back. Um, Former Kraken Carson Soucy's on that roster. I think he's hurt right now. I have the NHL media site. I don't know why I'm not doing that. It's the first game that the Kraken will wear their all black third jerseys. So there's a lot going on there. Obviously, if Kako does return in that game, it would be against his former team. So, excuse me, you know, there's oh no, Carson Soucy's not on IR at least. So, um, oh yeah, and he played a few days ago. So, unless he got hurt recently, we'll go to Puckpedia. Um, yeah, I would expect him to play Saturday against New York, which would be early, technically about a week early, but I mean, he looked good. He went through drills today. He didn't fully go through line rushes. I know there were a few folks who posted rushes as if he um was nope. Okay. Soucy's not listed on the injury list. So yeah, Carson Soucy's coming back. Um as though he was like fully taking rushes. He wasn't. It was largely the Yanni Newman, Shane Wright, Jaden Schwartz line. Paco towards the end of rushes took a few in Newman's spot, and then towards the end filled in for Jaden. They put Jaden Schwartz in, I'm sure, to get he took Jaden Schwartz's spot, sorry, to get more looks at Kako, I'm sure. And then in the 5-on-5 drills that the Kraken used, um worked on, sorry, after the rushes, he was able to uh fill in there and well get in the action there, yeah, along that line. And looked pretty good. I mean, went through some soft contact. Obviously, they're not hitting fully in these games, in these practice sessions, but that was cool to see. Lane Lambert did say when Darren of Sound of Hockey asked him, well, no, Mike Benton asked Darren about Kako. I'll get to Darren. And Jared McCann. Lambert said he's progressing. We'll just see where we go from here. He's still day to day, but certainly as it has been for the last little bit, encouraging that he's been on the ice and back in practice. He also did sort of get a idea of maybe what the lineup would look like, the forward lines would look like once Kako returns. It seems like they'd just do the swap of Kako and Newman with the way the fourth line's playing. I don't think they'd bump Newman down. I think, with the way the other lines have been working, Catton, Beniers, Eberly, Marchment, Stevenson, Tolvanen, maybe switch out Tolvanen. Um, but you want the way his 200-foot game plays as opposed to Newman's. Um, I think it just makes sense because you're not disrupting the fourth line the way that they've been playing that Cartier Myers, Winterton line. As much as I'm a fan of my guy John Hayden, um, I just think it would be switching Kako in there for Newman. Where was I? Oh yeah, and then Jared McCann. Darren asked about Jared McCann if there's been any progress on him. Not as encouraging. Lynn Lambert, right now he's in a little bit of a holding pattern, so we'll see where we go with him. We should know more here day to day as we go forward, which is very vague, and the tone of it just didn't sound good. It sounded as if, he might miss some time, unfortunately. He wasn't on the ice today. Saw everybody else, saw even the guys who were injured reserve, not practicing. Riker Evans, Freddie Gaudreau, were off the ice. They looked like they were in workout clothes. I'm sure they're working on their rehab off the ice. They were in the locker room, but yeah, not on the ice. Everybody was present though, except for Jared McCann. So that is not great to hear. Don't like that. Um, yeah, the other piece of news, there's a few pieces of news. The Kraken game on Thursday, January 29th against the Toronto Maple Leafs has been picked up by ESPN. That will be exclusive ESPN national broadcast. So Maple Leafs at Kraken here Thursday, January 29th is now a 7 o'clock ESPN game. Um, there was that, and then the last piece of I don't even know how much I like having the tweet up anymore. I was listening to 32 Thoughts with Elliot Friedman, and he mentioned in the earlier part of it, he was pretty enthusiastic um, not being about being wrong about the Kraken and the way they started. He says they look like the team that won the playoff round a couple of years ago, greater than the sum of their parts. I think what he did mean to say was the part about being greater than the sum of their parts. I don't think he was likening them to the way that the team looked in 22-23, because obviously different styles of play. That playoff team in in the second year as compared to um what the team is doing this year. So I think that's what it was going for, but that kind of got twisted a little bit. The other thing I didn't, he mentioned there was a team in the off season that before the Ducks signed him to an extension, was looking to provide an offer sheet for Mason McTavish. I see that he wonders if the Kraken were a team looking at an offer sheet for McTavish, and I'm like, well, and Darren and I from Saturday Hockey had this conversation this morning. Do you know this for fact? Or is this something that are we just throwing things at the wall? Do you have a little piece of information? Like you have to have something, I'm sure, that you're building off of. But I don't know. I also mentioned that if they were going to do it, they would have needed one of their picks from Dallas back, which they sent two picks to Dallas in the Mason Marchman deal this summer. So I don't know which one he would have meant, but so that's something I thought it was interesting, so I threw it out there. Um, and the last piece of news from today, it's not directly Mariners related, but he's a former Mariner. Will Klein pitched four scoreless innings. He only gave up one hit in Game 3 of the World Series tonight for the Dodgers against the Blue Jays. Five strikeouts. Um, He hasn't pitched three or more innings in the game since August 12th of 2021 when he's with the Quad Cities River Bandits. That is obviously not a major league team. That is a um what? It was the Royals High A affiliate. He hasn't pitched four more innings in the game since he was in college at Eastern Illinois in March of 2020. So came in, obviously he's a World Series hero. Uh, he's a World Series hero. Uh, Mariners fans quickly remembered he was sent to the Dodgers on June 2nd for left-handed pitcher Joe Jacques. Back then it made sense. Klein was a guy I think we talked about in our Banner Mondays spring training episodes. Um, he didn't really get much of a look at all. Uh, he appeared in what? Uh, 1-3 record in Tacoma, a 5.16 nope, sorry, 2-0 record in Tacoma. 22 games, a 7.17 ERA, one hold, three saves, 21.1 innings, uh, a 1.97 whip. None of this is super impressive, So people ragging on the Mariners, it's like, hey, they couldn't unlock him. He kind of bounced around this year um, with the Dodgers after they sent him over. Kind of bounced up and down. Yeah. And Joe Jack didn't really do much for the Mariners in AAA. Um, in 29 games, 2-0 record, 6 ERA though, 30 innings, 1.7 whip. He was interesting. They got him on the second. He was activated and assigned to the Rainiers. July 2nd, the Mariners selected his contract before optioning him the next day. Um, he was DFA'd on the 3rd of September and was sent on an outright, but he elected free agency on October 1st. And he signed with the Mets to a minor league contract before he was assigned to the Syracuse Mets. So kind of funny how life works, you know. The Mariners got him in a deal for international slot money from the Athletics, and he was added on the 40-man roster back in January. So kind of funny. He was, oh yeah, and left-handed pitcher Tyler J was a DFA'd that day to make room for him. So kind of funny how that works. So yeah, man, that is around the sound Monday, October 27th. Until we see you next time, take care of yourselves, be well, do whatever you can to make today great.
Hey everybody, Charles Hamaker here from Circling Seattle Sports with
Jen Barnes from Rough and Tumble.
Jen, what is Rough and Tumble for Circling Seattle Sports?
Your home. The home for Circling Seattle Sports.
I like it. Let's do one more take, just a little bit.
Hey there everybody, Charles Hamaker here from Circling Seattle Sports with
Jen Barnes from Rough and Tumble.
Jen, where's the home of Circling Seattle Sports?
Right here at Rough and Tumble.
Hi, Charles Hamaker here from Circling Seattle Sports with
Jen Barnes from Rough and Tumble.
Glad to join you here from Rough and Tumble, home of Circling Seattle Sports.
I love
Okay.
Up that out, Chuck. Okay, I'm ready.
Hello everybody, Charles Hamaker here from Circling Seattle Sports with
Jen Barnes from Rough and Tumble. Start over.
I forgot what I was saying.
I think you waved in the first one.
We did at the end.
Oh, at the end. Okay, that's what it was. Okay, cool.
You just couldn't see our hands.
And now it looks like you're holding your hands, so that's kind of weird.
Here's good?
Yeah.
Yeah, you actually want to room come this way, too.
Okay.
Just no further than that.
Yes, Lieutenant Dan.
And go.
Oh, I think this time I'll ask you, what's the home? Where?
Yeah, say, where's the home of Circling Seattle Sports?
Okay.
And I'll be like, right here at Rough and Tumble.
Hand good?
Yeah.
Yeah, your other hand. Put your fingers together just a little bit more. Not like that. There you go. It was just like.
Clawing at me.
Okay, I'm still recording, so go ahead.
Okay.